Go for no. Yes is the destination. No is how you get there. By Richard Fenton and Andrea Waltz. Picture this for a second. You're having an absolutely killer day. Everything's clicking. You make 3 sales calls, and boom, you close all 3. You're batting 1,000, and it's only Monday afternoon. You feel unstoppable, like you've finally cracked the code. So here's the question. What do you do next? Do you keep riding that wave? Do you grab your phone and line up 3 more calls to see just how far this hot streak can take you? Or do you pack it in? Tell yourself you've earned it? Maybe grab an early dinner, head home, and bask in the glory of a job well done? If we're being real, most of us would choose option 2. We hit our number, or get close enough, and suddenly we're coasting. The foot comes off the gas pedal. This is exactly what happens to Eric James Bratton, a thoroughly average copier salesman who has that perfect Monday and then, well, let's just say the rest of his week doesn't go quite as planned. He spends Tuesday buried in paperwork, Wednesday trapped in pointless meetings, and Thursday's got a tea time. He was this close to a record-breaking week, but that early success, it completely derailed him. And then something absolutely wild happens. During that Thursday golf outing, he slips on some wet rocks, cracks his head, and wakes up a decade into the future. He opens his eyes in a mansion he's never seen before, staring at a version of himself in the mirror who's older, heavier, and way less successful. He's completely lost, terrified even, but this bizarre journey is about to introduce him to someone unexpected, another version of himself. This one's wildly successful, supremely confident, and living a life that seems almost too good to be true. So what happened? What tiny shift, what single moment in time, caused these 2 identical people to end up on completely different paths? That's the heart of Go for No, this deceptively simple book by Richard Fenton and Andrea Waltz. It's told as a parable, a quick read with a message so powerful it's completely transformed how thousands of salespeople, entrepreneurs and dreamers think about success and failure. This isn't your typical business book. It's more like a blueprint for rewiring how you think about rejection itself. Today we're going to walk through Eric James Bratton's incredible journey together. And I promise, by the time we're done, you'll understand the one word standing between you and everything you've ever wanted. Spoiler alert, it's not the word you think. The real secret isn't learning how to get more people to say yes. The secret is learning how to go for no. The story begins. Let's meet Eric. He's 28, married, sells copiers for a living, and makes decent money. He's not setting the world on fire, but he's comfortably middle of the pack at his company. Most people would say he's doing pretty well. Then comes this magical Monday. 3 calls, 3 closes. He's absolutely crushing it. Excited, he calls his wife Elaine with the news. He's just 1 sale away from hitting his weekly quota. With that satisfying thought, he decides he's done enough for the day. It's only 3:30 in the afternoon, but hey, why push it? He'll grab dinner and catch the basketball game at home. Tuesday rolls around, and does he make any sales calls? Nope. He drowns in paperwork all day. As he jokes with the receptionist, selling is 1/10 prospecting and 9/10 paperwork. Wednesday's even worse. He gets stuck in an endless focus group that devours his entire day. By Wednesday night, reality's setting in. His perfect week is evaporating. 2 full days wasted. And to make matters worse, he's already committed to playing golf Thursday morning. Lying in bed, he realizes his week's almost over, and he still needs 1 more sale to hit quota, the quota that keeps his demanding boss Frank from breathing down his neck. Frank's got this plaque in his office that says it all. Hit your quota or hit the bricks. But Eric's not worried. He tells himself he'll just play a quick 9 holes. He always hits his quota, always. Thursday morning finds him at Strawberry Creek Golf Course. On the 14th hole, a tricky par 3, his shot flies long, sailing over the green and tumbling down a steep slope toward the creek. As he carefully steps onto the mossy rocks to grab his ball, his feet slip right out from under him. He falls backward into the freezing water, his head connecting hard with a massive rock. Then, lights out. When Eric finally comes to, everything feels wrong. The sharp pain in his hip isn't from hitting a rock in the creek. It's from tumbling out of bed and smacking into a hardwood floor. His throbbing head caught the corner of a nightstand. He calls out for Elaine, but she's not there. Actually, nothing's where it should be. This bedroom is huge, unfamiliar, decorated with exotic art and thick carpet he's never seen before. He stumbles onto a large terrace overlooking a pristine, perfectly maintained golf course. Confused and dizzy, he makes his way downstairs, following the sound of someone humming. It's a maid he's never met. When he startles her, she calls him Mr. Bratton and apologizes for not expecting him up so late. He asks where his wife is. The maid, whose name is Renee, looks puzzled. Mrs. Bratton is in Europe, she says calmly. Buying art. You told me yourself. Cold panic starts creeping in. He rushes to find a bathroom, looks in the mirror and freezes. The face staring back is his, but older. There are gray streaks in his hair and lines around his eyes that definitely weren't there yesterday. He's carrying at least 20 extra pounds. This isn't just a different house. This is a different version of him. Panicking now, he finds Renee and fires off questions. My name is Eric Bratton, right? Yes, sir. What do I do for a living? She looks concerned, maybe even a little scared. Well, she says slowly, you're a businessman. Oh, and you write books. I don't write books, he practically shouts. I sell copiers. Renee insists she's seen them in his study. He races upstairs, and there they are on a bookshelf. 3 hardcover books, all with his name on the spine, Eric James Bratton. The titles read, Fail Your Way to Success, One of These Days Is Now, and How to Have the Most Productive Year of Your Life. He pulls one down, flips it over, and his heart nearly stops. On the back cover is a photo of the author. It's definitely him. His legs feel weak. He collapses into a leather chair and reads the author bio. It describes someone who shattered every sales record at his company, became a best-selling author, and rose to become the youngest vice president at a huge corporation called CopyQuest. He lives with his wife Elaine, a prominent West Coast art dealer, in La Costa, California. He glances at the desk calendar, March 23, 2000. It's 10 years later. Somehow, impossibly, he's lost an entire decade. At the bottom of the page there's a phone number. Almost on autopilot he dials. A receptionist at CopyQuest answers. He asks to speak with Eric Bratton, claiming to be, quote, a very close friend. A moment later, a confident, smooth voice comes through. Good afternoon, Eric Bratton. It's his voice, but different, stronger, more self-assured. He tries explaining the impossible, that he went to bed in 1990 and woke up in this house in the year 2000. The other Eric is about to hang up, clearly thinking this is some kind of prank. Desperate, the younger Eric tells him to call the private line in his study. I'm sitting at your desk right now, he says, and that seems like the best way to prove it. He hangs up. 10 seconds tick by. The phone rings. He picks up and, To prove his identity beyond any doubt, tells the other Eric a secret, something from 7th grade that absolutely no one else could know. A story about a borrowed album, a lie, and lingering guilt. Long silence on the other end. Finally, the confident voice says, "I'll be there in 15 minutes." When the other Eric walks into the study, it's surreal, like looking in a mirror, but this reflection is tan, impeccably dressed, and about 20 pounds lighter. He radiates success. After a long, silent stare-down, he makes them both a drink and listens patiently as the younger, terrified Eric spills the whole bizarre story. The successful Eric doesn't dismiss it or freak out. Instead, he's oddly certain. "I don't believe anything happens by accident," he says calmly. "There's a reason for this. Sooner or later we'll figure it out." They agree to meet for dinner to try making sense of the impossible. The turning point. That night, at an expensive steakhouse, the younger Eric starts piecing things together. He's been reading his other self's book, Fail Your Way to Success, and he's realized their lives were identical up to a certain point. Same parents, same brother, same schools, even the same part-time job in college selling suits at a men's clothing store. But then things changed somehow, he says. He describes a story from the book about an encounter with a district manager named Harold. The successful Eric's eyes light up. "Do I remember? How could I forget? That's the day that changed everything for me." But the younger Eric shakes his head slowly. "That's the problem," he says quietly. "That day never happened to me." And right here is where everything splits. This is the moment that defined two completely different lives. The successful Eric tells the story. He was new, struggling, worried he was about to get fired. The district manager, Harold, was visiting the store, and Eric desperately wanted to impress him. Then this well-dressed guy walks in, and within 30 minutes, Eric makes the biggest sale of his life, over $1,100 worth of clothing. He's bursting with pride. Harold strolls over. "Nice sale, kid," he says, but doesn't seem particularly impressed. Then he asks a simple question that changes everything. "I'm just curious, but what did that customer say no to?" Eric's confused. "What do you mean?" "The guy bought a suit, a sport coat, shirts, ties, shoes, everything." "What do you mean? What did he say no to?" Harold waits patiently, then repeats, "We've already established what he said yes to. What I want to know is, what did he say no to?" Eric thinks back through the sale. Then, sheepishly, he admits, "Nothing. That customer didn't say no to anything." Harold leans in. "So how did you know he was done?" The question hits like a slap. Eric suddenly realizes the customer hadn't ended the sale. He had. Why? Because the customer had crossed Eric's own mental spending limit. Eric had never dropped $1,000 on clothes himself, so once the customer hit that number, Eric unconsciously assumed the sale was over. Harold looks him dead in the eye and delivers the line that changes everything. The salesperson never decides when the sale is over. The customer does. Then he adds, "Eric, your fear of hearing the word no is the only thing standing between you and greatness." Greatness, just 2 letters away, N-O. No. Sitting in that restaurant, the successful Eric explains how this moment completely shattered his understanding of success and failure. He grabs a pen and starts drawing on the back of the menu. "I always thought," he says, "that I was here in the middle, with success on one end and failure on the other." He sketches it out. "I thought my job was to move towards success and away from failure, but Harold opened my eyes. The real model looks like this." He draws again, this time with failure sitting between him and success. Failure, he explains, his voice intense, isn't something to avoid. It's the halfway mark on the road to success. It's a stepping stone. Most people hit that sign marked failure, and they turn around. They think they're going the wrong way, but they're not. Success is straight ahead, right through failure. He explains that as kids, we didn't fear the word no. Think about a toddler in a grocery store begging for a cookie. Mom says no. Kid asks again. Mom says no. Again, and again, and again. The kid doesn't take it personally or feel rejected. He just knows that somewhere at the end of all those no's, there might be a yes. Kids have this natural tenacity that we, as adults, get conditioned out of. The younger Eric is starting to get it. This one conversation with Harold lit a fire in his other self. But what about him? What happened with your job? He asks weakly. I went to work the next morning completely transformed, the successful Eric says. I was on fire. I finished the year as the #1 salesman in the store, and the next year, #1 in the entire chain. Heavy silence. I don't remember any of that, the younger Eric says, barely above a whisper, because that's not what happened to me. What happened? My sales didn't improve. Actually, they got worse. 2 months later, I was fired. This is it. The fork in the road. One man heard Harold's advice, and it transformed him. The other man heard the exact same words, but they just didn't stick. He stumbled over the truth, got back up, and kept walking like nothing had happened. The philosophy of number. Over the next few days, the younger Eric becomes a student of his older, wiser self. He learns there are levels to embracing failure. At first, you develop a willingness to fail. You tolerate it as part of the process. But the real breakthrough happens when you develop what he calls a wantingness to fail. You don't just tolerate rejection, you actively seek it out. You start seeing it as fun, like a game. Instead of avoiding rejection, the older Eric says, what if we decided to seek it? Instead of just tolerating no, what if we went out of our way to actually go for no? This is the core concept. You flip your goals. Instead of setting targets for how many yeses you want, you set targets for how many no's you're going to collect. Think back to Eric's week. His goal was 4 sales. After getting 3 yeses on Monday, he was almost there, ahead of schedule, so he coasted. But imagine if his goal had been to collect 16 no's that week. After 3 yeses and 0 no's, he would have been desperately behind. His success would have forced him to increase his activity, not decrease it. Going for no protects you from the complacency that success can create. The successful Eric has a top salesperson whose license plate reads N-Heart, WTHNO, in love with no. Why? Because last year, that salesman won an award for getting rejected more than anyone else in the company. And when he got that trophy for failing the most, he placed it right next to his other award, top salesperson in the entire country. The person who failed the most was also the person who succeeded the most. Success, he learns, really is a numbers game. R.H. Macy failed 7 times before his department store finally took off. Colonel Sanders got rejected over 1,000 times before someone agreed to franchise his chicken recipe. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before becoming president. These people all had high failure quotients. They were willing to get knocked down over and over on their way to success. The key to handling constant rejection? One magic word. When a doctor loses a patient on the operating table, they can't afford to crumble. They have to move on to the next person who needs help. The magic word they learn is next. When something doesn't go your way, you don't overanalyze or let it bury you. You simply say next and move on. The journey continues. The older Eric, who's also a pilot, flies them both up the coast to Pebble Beach in his private plane to play golf with 2 of his top salespeople, Kurt and Cheryl. The younger Eric, who's always been terrified of small planes, learns another lesson. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. It's being scared and doing it anyway. On the golf course, Kurt and Cheryl reinforce these lessons. Kurt explains that before meeting Eric, he suffered from pike syndrome. He tells this story about scientists who put a large pike fish in a tank with smaller minnows, but separated by a glass partition. The pike kept slamming into the invisible barrier, trying to reach the minnows until it finally gave up. Then the scientists removed the glass, but the pike just stayed on its side, held back by an imaginary wall it had built in its own mind. Most people are like that pike. A few bumped noses, a few bad experiences, and they learn to quit, restrained by self-imposed limitations. Eric, Kurt says, didn't teach him how to succeed. He taught him to enjoy bumping my nose. Cheryl adds another crucial insight. No doesn't mean never. It means not yet. She drops some stunning statistics. 44% of salespeople give up after one no. Another 22% quit after the second. By the fifth attempt, 92% of all salespeople have thrown in the towel. But here's the kicker. 60% of all customers say no 4 times before finally saying yes. The fastest way to separate yourself from everyone else? Be willing to get at least 5 no's from every person you talk to. After their round, they head to San Francisco, where the successful Eric is scheduled to give a keynote speech to 3,000 people. He confesses he's still terrified of public speaking every single time. The comfort zone is never static, he reminds his younger self. It's either expanding or shrinking. He forces himself to do scary things to keep his comfort zone expanding. As he's about to walk on stage, he turns to his younger self and delivers the final, most important lesson. I don't think you showing up here happened by chance, he says softly over the roar of the crowd. I think you've been given a gift, the chance to see what your life could be if you want it badly enough. But I'm not sure I'm as good as you, the younger Eric responds. Eric, you still don't get it, do you? I'm not better than you. I am you. The you that you're supposed to be. I'm the vision of your potential, provided you're willing to do what it takes. He hugs his younger self, then turns and walks into the spotlight. Just then, a stagehand tells the younger Eric to move off the stairs. As he turns, his heel catches. He loses his balance, and he falls. And all he can think is, not again. The awakening. He wakes up in a hospital bed. It's Sunday morning. His wife Elaine and his brother Carl are there, relieved. He's been in a coma for 4 days, ever since he fell out of bed Thursday morning. The entire experience, the 10 years in the future, the successful other self, all those life-changing lessons, it was all a dream, a vivid, detailed, powerful dream. Or was it? 6 months later, we meet a completely transformed Eric Bratton. He's confident, focused, absolutely on fire. He's been the #1 salesperson at his company for 3 of the last 5 months. He's on track to be Salesman of the Year. But the statistic he's proudest of? His commanding lead in the number of times he's failed. He knows that as long as he leads in that category, nothing can stop him. He's in a meeting with the vice president of a massive potential client, Callaway Golf. He's been turned down 17 times already by this company. After his presentation, the VP turns him down 4 more times. That's 21 no's total. But the VP is clearly impressed by his persistence and agrees to a follow-up meeting. As Eric's leaving, he notices a picture on the wall, a golf course. He recognizes it instantly from his dream. It's the view from the terrace of the house where he woke up. I'll bet this picture was taken from the balcony of your house, he says with eerie confidence. The VP looks stunned. How could you possibly know that? Eric just smiles. Lucky guess. He hands the man his card. When you're ready to sell, he says, don't bother calling a real estate agent. I'm the person who's going to buy your house. You seem awfully certain, the VP replies. Not just certain, Eric says, heading for the door. It's my destiny. As he turns to leave, the VP calls out, Wait, you dropped something. Under the chair is a folded piece of paper. Eric picks it up. He already knows what it is. It's the page he ripped from his other self's book. The page detailing the 5 failure levels. The proof. It wasn't just a dream. It was a glimpse of his potential. And now, he's finally becoming the man he was always meant to be. What this means for you. What a powerful story, right? It's a reminder that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs in life don't come from learning some clever new technique or strategy. They come from a simple, fundamental shift in how you see things. The core lesson of Go for No is beautifully simple. We have the wrong relationship with failure and rejection. We see them as enemies to avoid, as signs we should stop. The authors, through this wonderful parable, ask us to see them differently, to see failure not as a wall, but as a road. To see no not as a stop sign, but as a signpost, pointing toward yes. Think about your own life for a second. How many times have you stopped yourself from trying something because you were afraid of being told no? Afraid of looking foolish? Afraid of failing? Maybe it was asking someone on a date, applying for a dream job, or starting that business you've always thought about. We let the fear of a 2-letter word paralyze our potential. We build our own imaginary glass walls, just like that pike in the tank. What this book teaches is that the only way to break through those walls is to start bumping your nose against them on purpose, to desensitize yourself to the sting of rejection by experiencing it more often, to make it a game, to set goals not for success, but for failure. This is profoundly liberating. When your goal is to collect no's, you literally can't lose. Get a yes, you made a sale. Get a no, you hit your goal. Every outcome is a win. This simple shift removes the emotional weight of rejection and transforms it into a purely mathematical process. It turns fear into fuel. So how can you start applying this today? Here are some practical ideas. First, for the next week, set a small daily no goal. It doesn't have to be about sales. It can be anything. Your goal could be collecting 3 no's each day. Ask a coffee shop for a discount. Ask a stranger for directions to somewhere you already know how to get to. Ask a colleague for help on something you could do yourself. The point isn't actually getting these things. The point is practicing hearing the word no and realizing it doesn't hurt. It's just a word. Second, start tracking your ratios. In any area where you want to improve, just count the yeses and the nos. Don't judge them, just count them. You'll start seeing that success is a predictable outcome of activity. If you know that for every 10 no's you get 1 yes, then getting a yes is no longer luck. It's just a matter of getting through 10 no's. And finally, practice saying next the next time you face a small setback, a rejection email, burnt toast, getting stuck in traffic. Don't dwell on it. Just say next to yourself, take a breath, and move on. You're training your mind not to get bogged down by failure, but to see it as a minor event on a much longer journey. That was Go for No, Yes is the Destination, No is How You Get There, by Richard Fenton and Andrea Waltz. We've explored the main path of the story today, but here's the truth. A summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. You can see the shape of the mountains and the path of the rivers, but you can't feel the sun on your skin or hear the wind in the trees. The real magic happens when you take the journey yourself. If any part of Eric's story resonated with you, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy of this book. Reading it isn't just about learning a concept. It's an experience that can fundamentally shift how you view courage and your own potential. The link is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new perspective, please hit that like button and subscribe to Billionaire's Bookshelf. It tells us we're heading in the right direction, and make sure you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.